So I know this was quite fast and there's a lot of information there. If there are some questions that players, that arbiters or organisers have, Tanya, have you seen some questions that are interesting
yes, there
for
is
us?
actually an interesting question.
Yes.
Is there a maximum number of players limit when organizing a tournament? And maybe
So
you want to talk about how many spectators can a page take?
Sure. So we're not like, to be completely honest, we're not sure. So we have tested with 750 players running live all at the same time and spectators in that event and we were only using like 10% of one server, and we're usually running 2 to 4 servers. We've done some testing on our staging environment where we've had 8,000 people we don't see any issues. So I'd love to talk to some people who want to run tournaments that are 1, 2, 3,000 players. We don't think we've got a limit, in the short term. What I would say is, if you're planning to run an event which has more than 1,000 players, please tell me, please reach out and let me know, because what I will do is then make sure that we increase the resources, that we allocate the number of servers to make sure that we can cope. If there's 10 people running a 1,000-player tournament all at the same time, our servers will struggle. But yeah, to be honest, we would love to try to do bigger events, and we're pretty confident we can do 8,000, but let's see what happens. We want to go in stages: 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, and see how we go. All right. You can see
David
some other questions.
Sedgwick is raising a hand. I'm trying to answer in the chat, but maybe David wants to ask a question.
Sure. If you want to unmute David, David, do you want to unmute yourself? Let's have a go at. Go ahead, David.
Sorry, I had trouble unmuting.
No problem.
Yes, sorry. I got a message saying the host is not allowing players to unmute themselves. But,
we've got you now.
Have you got me now? It's just about the question. I've got to be a bit blunt about this question. I was one of the local arbiters in the European Online.
Mm-hmm.
You said in your presentation, David, that it was simple and straightforward to move between Tornelo and the next pairing, external pairing program, and vice versa. It didn't seem to work all that well in the European Online.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, somehow players kept being given 0 points for a buy when they should have been given 1 point for a buy. Mm-hmm. I don't know what went wrong. What I want to know is whether whatever it was, you've managed to fix it.
Sure. So, I mean, that was the first time that anybody had used the feature of importing and exporting pairings. So, there were understandably some, learning curves for the arbiters in that case. So when you import pairings, it will import the pairings, and you have to decide how many points the buy is worth. So that was just a simple process that the arbiters weren't aware of and familiar with. And so they'd import the pairings, they go, oh yeah, that's it, and just didn't realize you just got to click the button to say that it's a 1 point buy. Because when you're importing pairings, you're importing a PGN file, and a PGN file, of course, is a game file. So it doesn't know what the result of a buy is in that. They're all unfinished games. So yeah, that was I think the issue there. But like you saw me import the pairings, of course. Like with any piece of software, the more you practice, the better you'll get, and the smoother things will go. So yep, good question. I will try and get to some other questions. So
David, there
yes.
is a question about how to import pairings from another pairing software.
Yep.
But I'm afraid it is kind of advanced. I don't know if you can make a quick comment now.
So you import pairings via any via a PGN file. So that imports the pairings. If you need to change clocks, for example, to make Armageddon games, then you need to change the clocks as a separate process. So when you're importing the games, you're importing the pairings. It's literally, you know, the pairings. It's like who's playing white, who's playing black. So you can do that reasonably easily. Okay, so let me scroll through some of these other questions. Can you give 3, 2, 1 for a draw? Yes, you can. You can set the results to any number of points you like for a win, loss, or draw. That's totally fine. Is there possibility to create fake tournaments? Yes, absolutely. I can give you access to our staging server, which is completely fake, and the data there is lost, so you don't have to worry about that. Or you're welcome to just create a tournament on Tornelo Live and import players and work things out.
Or they can also join the trial games. I mean, if it is for
yes.
players who want to familiarize themselves, I will enter the link.
Absolutely, thank you, Tanya. Thank you for reminding me. That's right. So, as a support for the FIDE World Youth and Cadets Championships, which are coming up in a couple of weeks' time, Tornelo has every single day starting tomorrow for the next 2.5 weeks. Every single day we have a trial event. Okay, so you'll see it's called a practice trial event or practice event on Tornelo. You will be able to go to that event, and you can take part in the event as a player. You can take part as an arbiter. You can join in. It's just called a daily practice. Let me just share the screen so you can see where that is. So when you go to Tornelo and you're browsing around, you'll see in the upcoming events a daily practice tournament every single day. They're on different time zones all around the world. So on the Tornelo homepage, tornelo.com, you'll find that schedule, and you're welcome to come and play in those events, or get your players to play in those events if they need some practice. Sit in with the arbiter, ask questions. We can give you arbiter access if need be, and you can actually see, maybe there'll be a 20 or 30 player, maybe there'll be 100 players in that tournament. You'll see how it works in the real world. Okay, so every day starting tomorrow for the next 3 weeks, we've got a live tournament, 1 a day during the week, 3 a day on Saturday, 3 a day on Sunday. So yeah, please come to those and tell all your players in your federations. For the players, it's a free tournament for kids to come and play, and we'll have a master online, doing game commentary and chatting to players and stuff as well. So should be quite good fun. I saw a question, is it possible to upload pairings and results directly to chessresults.com? Not directly, no, but Tornelo exports a TRF file, which is the tournament results file. So you can upload that TRF file directly to chessresults.com. Of course, all the results are also on Tornelo as well for your players. So you can send players, if they need to find results more immediately, to Tornelo, and all the results are archived there. You saw we've got results back from 2011. So you can export and upload the results, and while you're waiting for that, if players need to know, they'll be there straight away. Knockout tournament. Oh yes.
There is also a question of whether we can download PGN files of every tournament that has been played on Tornelo, like a huge database.
So we don't give access for somebody to download the whole database as a huge database. You must download tournaments one by one. All right. There's a little bit more sophistication. So if you're an organization, if you own an organization, then you'll get some additional features to download bulk PGN files and bulk entries. But for most situations, just tournament by tournament, you download all the PGN, all the games from the one tournament. Is it possible to organize blitz tournaments, 3-2 or 5-3? Yes, it is. You've got a time plus an increment. So absolutely, you can have a blitz tournament. Be aware that Tornelo, we are replicating over the board chess. So there is no pre-move. You are not allowed to pre-move, because in over the board chess, you're not allowed to touch your piece when it's your opponent's turn. So in Tornelo, the same rule applies. You can't touch your piece when it's your opponent's turn to move. So just be aware, if you're going to try and play a bullet game, it's not going to be much fun because there's no pre-move. Okay. All right. Is Tornelo FIDE approved? FIDE is not FIDE endorsed as a pairings program yet. We are using Javafo, so you should get exactly the same pairings if you're doing the pairings. But FIDE, there's, as you can imagine, some administrative hurdles for us to overcome in order to submit ourselves for FIDE approval. So we have a little bit of work to just make sure we have an official FIDE mode so that we meet the FIDE endorsement requirements. So very soon we'll be doing that. All right. Any other questions? Let's have a look at some of these other questions.
There was a question about knockout tournaments and Armageddon.
Okay. So Armageddon games, you have to manually set the the clock. So at the moment, the clock must be the same, automatically set for the same time for both players. But yes, you can absolutely manually change the clocks. So that's fine. You can download. Okay, so downloading pairings. Terry has asked, how do you actually export the pairings? On the pairings program, there's a button, Export TRF. Click the Export TRF, it's exported. Question from Gopakumar about registering real names and FIDE IDs. Do we have any verification? Okay, so this is a very important question because you need to know that the person who's playing is a genuine person. This is why we have a delegated trust, like a chain of trust. We can't have anybody being an organization. You have to be a verified organization to import FIDE IDs, okay? Because when I speak to you and I know that you are a trusted person, you're running a genuine organization, just the same as when you submit results to FIDE, you're a trusted person. So Tornelo trusts you. If you give access to a tournament organizer or you give access to an arbiter, it's because you trust them. So there is this chain of trust, which means that the arbiter at the end of the day, they see the person face to face on the screen. So if there's any concerns or issues or problems with identity, it's the arbiter is able to deal with that. In the long run, yes, we would like to work on some identity verification, passport, genuine like identity. This is not so simple. And at the moment, the way that we're managing it is for this chain of trust. We identify verified organizers. The organizers trust other organizers or administrators. The administrators trust the arbiters, and the arbiters at the end of the day are verifying the players. This is how it works. Okay.
David?
Yes.
There is another question from Ahmed. I tried to answer. If a player can change the name and make it to a nickname during the tournament. Of course, on Tornelo, players use their full names and last names, but maybe we can talk a bit about the level of privacy they choose to show their initials, for example.
Sure. So yeah, we have a policy on Tornelo that players cannot be anonymous, right? Anonymous play causes lots of problems. Firstly, on fair play, but secondly, also on safety and security. So it's very important that we have real players playing under real names. Now, I understand there are some players who don't want their name to be public on Google. They don't want their name to be out in the world. And so like we saw for the tournaments where you have 3 privacy settings, private, community, or public, every individual player also has the ability to select their privacy level, okay? So if the player decides they want to be private, then nobody can see their name, nobody can search for their name, right? The only time their name will be visible is to the arbiter in the tournament and to their opponents and the other players in the tournament that they're actually playing in. Any spectators won't be able to see their name. So we have sophisticated privacy settings, which lets players choose like what other people can see and what they can't see. Okay. Terry, you might need to import the TRF file into Swiss Manager, not just open it directly. A TRF file is actually a text file, so you can open that in Word or in Notepad or something like that. and then you'll see all of that.
To import it in Swiss Manager, you can choose File, and from the drop-down menu, import FIDE data format.
FIDE data format. Thank you. So Luke's
David?
asked, what level must we see the organization? National, provincial, league, club, all of them. So a club should set up their organization with their logo. They run their club tournaments. A league or a provincial or a national federation set up there, and they own their tournaments. All right. At some point in the future, we'll have some way of chaining those together, so the national federation can actually, kind of have clubs and provinces and so forth, in a hierarchy. But for now, everyone if you've got an organization, if you've got a logo, if you've got a brand, it's a separate organization. Set it up and do it like that. Okay. And so we're going to verify all organizations. Right. We have more than 600 organizations at the moment. Maybe only half of them, actually a lot less than half of them are actually verified. So, that's fine. If people want to set up organizations and not be verified, that's okay. They just won't be public. They won't be able to do import. They won't be able to link with FIDE IDs. But maybe you're a chess academy or something and it doesn't matter to you. So that's okay. Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let's see if there's any other questions. So
would you like to recommend the best browser to use with Tornelo?
Sure. So we recommend Chrome as the best browser. Tornelo is compatible with all devices except for very old browsers. So Tornelo it's only been built in the last 6 months, and all of the online components. And so it's using the very latest technology. So you will need to have a modern, up-to-date browser. If you're using, an iPhone 4 or something like that, you probably won't be able to move the pieces and play the game, because some of the technology requires, up-to-date technology. So we would just generally say Chrome is the best one. It updates itself automatically. If you're using Edge or Firefox or Opera or anything else, they don't update themselves as frequently, and so it's less likely, or it's more likely that you'll have problems. Generally, it should work on any device, but yeah, as a rule of thumb, Chrome is the preferred browser, if you like. Okay. So we've got a question. Anonymous play is not good for fair play. Absolutely. This is not anonymous. Is it statistically proven that this helps? So fair play is a very big question. There are a number of components. This is not fair play can't be solved with one silver bullet. Fair play is a long-term, multifaceted problem, and to solve it takes a whole community of people working together. David Smurden here in Australia is doing some research at the moment about these, behavioral psychology aspects of chess. And absolutely, there is research that shows that if you are anonymous, you are much more likely to behave badly online, right? And when we're looking at behaving badly, okay, in our example, it's about getting unfair assistance from a computer, but there are plenty of other examples of people behaving badly online, trolling people, spamming people, inappropriate photos and messages. Like kids, teenagers all around the world are behaving badly online, right? People are abusive, and they're doing things that in the real world they would never do. Absolutely, there's I've done a lot of work on this. There's a whole behavioral psychology kind of body of evidence that talks about the sorts of things that make it a more conducive environment to fair play. So that's the first thing, is you need the environment to be better in terms of fair play. Then you need supervision, because just an environment is not enough. And then you need verification to make sure that your supervision was actually working. So can we compare any of the tournaments that are played on other platforms with Tornelo? I haven't done any comparisons. I can say that in the European Youth Championships, we had a 100% fair play result. Those results were run through through Kenneth Reagan's, reports as well afterwards. And that was 750 teenagers. So like if your 750 teenagers can all play fair, this is to me like a pretty good result. We're not perfect. Of course, we're not perfect. There are still people who are getting assistance playing on Tornelo, but we make it psychologically more difficult to do that by having a real name, by having an arbiter present, by seeing the opponent on Zoom, by by building repeat interactions. Like and read my blog, watch the webinar. There's a lot of information about that for people to look at. Okay, team style tournaments. So we are currently working on teams pairings. So if you're planning an Olympiad, anybody from FIDE who wants to run the next Olympiad on Tornelo, you are welcome. But for the time being, you'll be using a different pairings program to do the pairings externally and import them into Tornelo with that PGN import feature. Tornelo doesn't have a teams pairing program yet. So if you're the 4NCL in leagues tournament, I know Adam, who's on the call here, is running some leagues events as teams, and they're importing players. We're not far off. Like I said, we're importing new features. We're creating new features every single week, and we are deep into the teams work, because I know that's a massive part of it. Okay, so the biggest complaint so far from participants is navigation and graphical interface. So the actual chessboard itself has gone through an overhaul very recently. So players can now at least choose the color of their chessboard. That was our #1 question. Can you change from blue to green or brown or either? So yes, now you can change the color of your chessboard, and that's had a big overview. Remember that Tornelo is it's 12 years old. So a lot of the interface is still this older technology that was built a decade ago, and it needs an improvement. As we're getting traction and we're getting more and more tournaments, we're spending, we're feeling more confident with the platform. We're spending more and more development resources and time improving things. So the more people are out there using it, the faster we'll do development, and the quicker all of these features are going to come out. So we are very interested to hear from everybody. If there's something you want to see happen, tell us. So I mean, we've been very responsive to, for example, to tournaments, some of the big tournaments we've had on the platform recently. So we had when FIDE's got the Olympiad for players with a disability. The chief arbiter asked us, could we have a take-back facility, because players with a disability perhaps are more likely to have a finger slip or mouse slip on their games. So that feature, and we released that feature on Friday, well in advance of the Olympiad. So we are trying to be responsive to the needs of organisers and arbiters, and we are 100% focused on organisers and arbiters as being our customer. So if we get a request from a player for something and we get a request from the arbiter for something, we're probably going to prioritize the arbiter's request ahead of the player's requests. Obviously, there's a balance, because as an arbiter or an organizer, your job is to make sure that players have a good experience and come back. So we have to do some stuff for the players as well, and for spectators and for streamers and all sorts of things. So we're on top of that. A manual, yes, we are. So we have a number of different options for support at the moment. So let me just again share my screen, and I will share these slides with you as well. So let's just go to the support page. So you'll have these links. So we have #1, a WhatsApp community, and this is for like live real-time help. You're on WhatsApp. It's a community. Like, I'm not awake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So sometimes, people in the community just jump in and help each other out, which is fantastic. So I love that WhatsApp community, and people who have got experience with Tornelo are on there and they're answering questions. Thank you, particularly Adam, Tanya, Eugenia, other people who've been answering questions for some of the new for the new arbiters on there. We have a help center. Tanya's put the link into the chat. That's got documentation of almost all of our features one by one. And we're slowly collating that at the moment into like a comprehensive manual that you can just pick it up like a book and read page by page. So at the moment, jump into the help center and dig in there. And I'll give you a link so that you can schedule a meeting with me one-on-one. And by scheduling a meeting with me, you're then welcome to ask any specific detailed questions that you have. So,
David, should I put the link for the WhatsApp group in the chat? Ah, perfect.
Yeah, I've just done that. I've just done that. Okay. So yeah, please ask questions, give me feedback, tell me what you want to see happening on Tornelo, use your imaginations. What can we do to run better chess tournaments all around the world, both online, hybrid tournaments, which I think is going to be a big thing in the future, and also over the board tournaments, if and when those over the board events are possible, hopefully in Australia very soon.